All right, folks, good evening, and thank you for being here to Bordeaux Elementary. My name is Jeff Slakey from KMAS Radio, and we are starting up a series of community forums around the different schools here in the Shelton School District to kind of give a better spotlight on what's happening in each school and how the teachers interact with the students and the principal and the overall feel here. And we're really happy to be at Bordeaux to start things off. We have Principal Kyle O'Neill here. We have third grade teacher Bree West. Superintendent Wyeth Jessee is in attendance, as well as two of our great school board members, James Dale and Lauren Gilmore. And I've put together just a couple of questions to go through with everybody to kind of have a better, fuller conversation about what's happening at each specific school, because I know we hear a lot at the overall school board meetings on a district-wide level. But as we were talking about these types of opportunities, it's rare sometimes to have everybody on hand to be able to talk on an individual elementary school basis. We're going to be at OMS in October on the 7th as well, and then we're going to be making our way to all the schools in the Shelton School District. So I want to thank everybody for being here, of course, and we're going to start, Kyle, with you as the principal. New school year here, so just talk a little bit about some things you've seen, what makes you proud as a bulldog here at the school.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that make me proud. This is my fifth year entering as principal at Bordeaux, and I think this year, out of all five, we've really been able to hit the ground running from day one. We have had a pretty continuous staff over the past couple of years, so not a lot of new people coming in, and the new ones have come in and really just assimilated themselves into the culture that we've already got going on. The kids have been fantastic. I think we've tried to build a K-4 program here, get the kids ready for OMS and OBJ on up. But because of that, when the students go from kindergarten to first to second, they know what the expectations are. The teachers hold the same high expectation for students, both behaviorally and academically. And so we really try and limit, the surprises. And so when they enter the building, they're greeted by multiple adults in the front and greeted by multiple adults up in the breakfast room. We're trying to set the stage for the day on a positive note. And so I just think overall, the staff, my teachers, my support staff, have just done a wonderful job of just setting the system up for success so that already I just saw first graders walking out the door with book bags and their books going home. Kindergartners are learning how to partner talk and turn to each other. I saw that today. So all these things that sometimes take 3-4 weeks, we're doing it already. So it's been super cool.
I see a lot of Bordeaux Bulldog posts on social media from your Facebook page and things like that. And it looks like not only the staff, but the students here have a lot of fun when it comes to learning at the school. So talk a little bit about how the culture instills both a great positive learning experience, but a welcoming experience.
Yeah, and so kind of like what I mentioned is I'm really fortunate because everybody on my staff, teachers, support staff, my front office, my custodial staff, the people that work up in the lunchroom, are fully committed to the students and their success. And so when you walk into our building in the morning, you'll often see myself, my title lap team, my secretaries, my nurse tech are up front greeting people. We have a couple people outside letting kids out of their cars, and we just try and start the day on a real positive note and just greet the kids warmly, give them hugs, high fives, walk them to class if they need to. We have multiple people in the cafeteria, same thing, to make sure they're getting breakfast and just checking in, do a little temperature check on the students, and just try and start the day positively. Because I think, as everybody knows, if your day starts off rough, then your whole day can be kind of ruined.
Right.
I do think we really try and implement just a very engaging experience from the moment they enter the class or moment they enter the building all the way through the end of the day, so that they're busy all day long, they're learning all day long, and then through that, I think they are hopefully having fun. We try and push that fun. Learning is fun, and we want them to just be academically pushed and challenged, but also cared for, loved, comfortable, and so that their whole day is just focused on learning. And then hopefully by the time they go home, we hope that the parents find that they're tired and ready to chill out at home.
Yeah.
So that's our kind of goal, is to get them in the morning and then leave them on the way out the door exhausted.
So, Bree, when you get and welcome in your third grade students here, do you see the benefits of that start of the day here from Kyle as the kids get out and they're welcoming and everybody's excited and they come into the classroom ready to go?
Oh, absolutely. I'm in a portable, so by the time the kids get to me, they've spoken to several people throughout the building.
Uh-huh.
And so usually they, have to tell me like, guess what so and so told me, or I got a ticket. And so yeah, by the time they get out to me at the portable, they've already talked to so many people in the building, their former teachers, the lunch ladies. It's awesome.
Third grade starting to become the upperclassmen here at the elementary. How's the year been so far?
Um, Honestly, this is my 15th year at Bordeaux, and this is probably one of my best starts. Um, I think Kyle touched on it a little bit, but the structures and routines and things that we focus on as a district and then really deep dive as a school really sets the kids up for success. And our K-1-2 teachers are phenomenal. And so, I mean, by the time I get them, I just kind of remind them what we're doing. They really come in ready to learn. They know what to do. There's the kids themselves are really welcoming. So if they see a new face, um, there's too many kids probably going to them and like trying to tell them what to do,
Uh-huh.
but they recognize those kids that like, oh my gosh, I've never seen you before, and so they're drawing them in, and yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a system that like it's gotten to the point where I kind of oversee them, but they really kind of take care of themselves
Oh,
and they know what they're doing.
that's awesome to hear. 15 years here, obviously you've seen then a lot of changes in how education is delivered to students. What are some of the newer things the district's been implementing at your grade level that they're really kind of latching onto?
I think for me personally, one of the biggest impacts and things that we've done as a district is kind of this idea of like word study and word work. As I've spent my career teaching third and fourth grade, and so yeah, they're kind of the older kids of the school. And there's a really big shift with reading for K-1-2. You're really learning those foundational skills, and you're learning how to read. And then you come to third and fourth, and you're kind of taking those skills that you know how to read, and now you're reading to learn, and you're reading for information. And we were really missing kids that still needed a little bit of foundational reading skills. And so this program with like Words Their Way and things like that, it's K-12. And so it really is allowing us as teachers to implement a program that's structured and routined that is the same across all schools, but it's meeting the kids where they're at and their needs. And so, we teach those core reading subjects and writing, but then there's also kind of that small piece during the day that we're implementing like very direct instruction on word study, and it's made a big difference with the kids.
James, so at the school board level, you get a lot of the end result reports of this. You see uh, the increases in reading and things like that. Talk to me a little bit about first just what you heard here and how that is in line with what you've been hearing from the district level at the board meetings.
Yeah, great question. This is my first fall launch. So I came on the board mid-September last year.
Uh-huh.
So I missed this part of the experience. So I don't have that to compare with. But this year, I just want to echo everything I've heard from teachers and people that work in the district that I've talked to, just been really positive about this fall launch. That the school year started off just positive, to use that word again, and teachers being excited. I think I've seen a morale increase to start the year off from teachers, which then translates down to the students. And so, kind of learning how the school usually starts out, but I've seen the maybe down the line result of what they're doing here as I got to tour OMS last year.
Right.
And to see all of the students coming in, hopefully with the same, this is how we start our day, this is how we do it. It doesn't matter if you went to Evergreen or if you went to Bordeaux or if you went to Mountain View. So I got to see a little bit further down from the third grade, just echoing what the district's been really putting into place for a number of years now, kind of, I think, the fruits growing and being really apparent, and all of that work coming to fruition down the road.
Lauren, you're able to talk at this from a great perspective. First, the question is, are your kids coming home tired, like Kyle said at the end of the day? You're a parent here as well at Bordeaux.
They are definitely coming home happily worn out from the day.
Yeah.
Every time I bring the kids to school or pick them up, they're always greeted by such a welcoming and safe environment. My children are always excited to come home and talk about their day and, share stories of what they learned or what they did on the playground and how the different specialists impacted their day. And I just always feel really good about bringing my daughters here. I'd like to kind of steal your question, which is moving into my third year of school improvement plans. I've really seen the growth across all the schools as each year they've set these metrics and these measurements for themselves, and they've crushed them every year, and we've really closed gaps across the district in how our classrooms are learning the same things and they're focused on the same skills and the same rules. My daughter is in her last year here at Bordeaux, and I feel really positive about her transition into fifth grade because I know that she is learning what she needs to know to go over there, and everybody is practicing and using those skills repeatedly so that there's no confusion or concern. They just feel fostered here.
Wyeth, talk to me a little bit about, you travel all the schools weekly to find out what's going on in the classrooms here at Bordeaux. This is what we're focusing on tonight. Tell us what you see from the student body to the staff to the teachers to everybody here, which is a great beacon here on the hill of Bordeaux Elementary.
I love Bordeaux. I love coming here. It's always been, even though I'm going into my fifth year, this has always had a safe it's just been a very welcoming environment. Kyle would definitely know. Like I'm always like, all right, so this is your next step. Like here's the things that I see that could help you and your staff because we have to listen to the educators. And I also have to trust my own professional eye to what I see. And I go, oh, okay, so this is some ways we can address these common problems, right? Like, why aren't kids just leaving the classroom? Like, how are they coming down the hallway, like trying to prevent? And so they've made a number of, I wouldn't say seismic outside of the reading approach. That's just been an adoption approach. But they've done a continuous improvement about how they operate here at this school. And it's come to a place where what Bree's able to detail around, wow, now they build up and they know what to expect. Here's our structured routines. Here's how I get my book. Here's how I make my notes. This is my journal. I know how to do a turn and talk. Those little things do add up so that first month of teaching isn't spent doing all that time. That's a frustrating task for a lot of staff because as Lauren's mentioning, some students show up and they're not able to navigate very well every year. They're not in very maybe sometimes structured environments, maybe that a lot of our educators are used to. And so by having that, it's known for those, especially those kids that show up, they go, oh, I know what she means by sitting at the carpet quietly because maybe they had Miss Rhodes all the way back in kindergarten, and then they figured out that's what it is. And they built developmentally appropriate over time. And that this school has worked really hard on coming to some agreements, making a commitment to it. And that commitment has actually turned to a way better experience for those students. And now they're just accelerating because the numbers are that's like 100 extra kids at this school that now are reading at grade level that might not have if they didn't have all the experiences that this staff crafted.
Kyle, what are some of those goals that you may have for this upcoming school year? Maybe things that were not necessarily left on the table, but as you reflected on the end of last school year, what you think would push the student body further even more this year?
Yeah, so I think one of the main things we have is our school improvement plan. So we set goals based on our data. So right now for our third grade, Ms. West and her team get a lot of the pressure to get 45% of our students at or above benchmark on the state assessment. For us internally, it's a guiding document, and we use that throughout the year, kind of a focal point. But really, like in a larger scope, because sometimes outside the realm of like the building or the district office or the school board, the school improvement plan might not mean a lot to the parents in the community. But it's something that we use as, like I said, a guiding document. But then we also use that to just take a broader look at how we're doing and what systems are working. So one of the things that a lot of people know is that within each classroom, we've tried to provide a robust classroom library where students are able to find books that are at their level, that are independent, and then the teacher can guide them through those books and help them kind of accelerate on the reading. So one of our goals this year is to really fine tune and focus on that aspect. So we've been doing that, but I think teaching kids to be able to sit down, read, engage with a book, respond to that book at multiple levels throughout the year is just something that for our school can kind of push those kids to that next level. It's a challenge because teachers are trying to manage that. It's hard. It's been a super huge learning curve for my staff, but they've taken it on head on and put a lot of time and effort into it. And so I think, like, Mr. Jessee Wyeth was saying, that we've done a lot of work on some of the other structures. And so we've got our systems, our routines down. So that's one area that we can just focus on and really kind of fine tune of how do we get those kids starting at, level D and get them up to level HI or J, throughout the year. And so that's the kind of a focal point for us this year.
Explain to me a little bit about how giving them this good baseline gets them a little maybe more open in the classrooms, a little more out of their shell in a way that they're able to connect better with their peer group. Many, many years ago, I was part of a group that brought the buddy benches around into all the elementary schools. And it was kind of a new concept for me when I first heard about it, but the group installed these things. And I heard from year after year after year how important that was for especially transfers, new students, folks who may not connect in a recess space. And then kind of like what Bree was saying, how kids are excited to engage with new students and make them feel welcome here.
Yeah, I think hopefully our students feel a lot of pride about being at Bordeaux, especially our older students. We did develop, Mrs. Butel and one of my teachers developed a school leadership program last year with our fourth grade. And so we're going to continue that this year. And we're really trying to just instill that positivity and pride in Bordeaux. I think within the classroom, you'll go into any classroom in our building and you won't find kids in rows. They're all at either table groups, or a big thing is down on the carpet. Like Miss West, I mainly taught third and fourth grade, did it for 18 years. And I honestly didn't bring my students down to the carpet very often because they were just older. And I wish, like, reflecting now and looking back and seeing my third and fourth graders down on the carpet with their teachers, it's powerful. They're right up close and personal. Every teacher uses some sort of engagement strategy, whether it's like turn and talk. Some set the kids up in squares or in triangles. But throughout the lesson, the students have to turn to each other, support each other, listen to each other. So through all the just basic academics, I think they're really learning valuable social skills and just how to interact. Because as we all know, like growing up, there's very, very few jobs where you're just siloed off by yourself.
Yeah.
So interacting and working with each other is huge. And I think that's just been an added benefit of that teamwork. And then everybody again builds in that loving relationship within the classrooms that we're all there to support each other, to build each other up. And our success is based on everybody's success, not just one individual.
Bree, go on that a little bit. I want to know a little bit more about the on the carpet time, no rows. I mean, when I was in school, it was all rows, and that's how things worked. And you kept your face front, and you had listened, and whatever. But when I've been in classrooms here and at other schools around the district, I do see a lot of that. So explain to me a little more on the benefits of that type of learning atmosphere.
Well, they're still in rows on the carpet. They're like, they have spots.
Okay.
There's too many of them to be just wherever you want. So we do strategically put them in, a spot.
Okay.
But what Kyle's talking about is like when we're doing those mini lessons and those direct instruction, especially at the younger kids, elementary, they can just disengage very quickly, and they can be staring at you and not have any idea what you're talking about. So we try to interact with them during our lessons. And so one of the strategies that we use a lot is turn and talk. And so while the students are on the carpet, we have taught them how to respond to our lesson, but with themselves and with their partners. And so some classrooms just do partners, some classrooms do quads. It's kind of whatever that classroom management strategy is for each individual teacher, but allowing the students to respond to whatever it is I'm teaching. And so, giving them a prompt. So if we're working on genre, like I'll ask the students, think about the book that you're reading and what is your genre, and then they're sharing that with their partners. And then it gives us as teachers an opportunity to kind of hover over them because they're kind of in a close proximity to each other, to listen to how those students are responding. And it gives us just a really quick gauge of where they're at to kind of keep guiding our lesson. But it gets them interacting with each other.
Got another question for you, and Lauren, I'm going to add you into this one as well. When it comes to outside of the classroom learning and family engagement on these things, I know it's the start of the school year, so you may not have as many those types of opportunities right yet. But over these last few years, how do you work to communicate with the families that engagement at home is a very important and additional aspect to learning here at school?
I think for us, we've kind of got two big focuses with that communication and that homeschool connection. One of them is attendance. So just trying to support families with getting their kids here and here all day. We've got a lot of really great learning that we do, but we cannot do it if those kids are not here. And so just trying to work with families to make sure there's not barriers and things like that, and the importance of their students being here. And then we also are working really hard on that homeschool connection with our book bags. So like Kyle was talking about, getting kids in a good fit book. And then those are books that we send home. And it really, helps for parents to see what kind of books their kids are reading. And hopefully they kind of connect through reading. And so those two things have been kind of one of our main goals of trying to communicate with families and make that connection.
Laura, and then if you're comfortable sharing this part, the at-home reading, learning aspect, how do you go about it when your students come home and get them prepared for the next day?
Yeah. Each year we've always had this small literacy requirement appropriate to their level. 15 minutes in kindergarten, you read to your child. My kids are up to 20 minutes in first grade of reading in the evening. Sorry. But the concept of the good fit book is really important at home also. I've noticed that it's really easy to engage with my kids to get that reading done because they're never really defeated or stuck in needing to read a certain thing. We just need to read what we're comfortable at and what you feel successful at. And as far as a parent and understanding like what's expected of my kids and the outreach at the school is really good. There's always flyers. There's incentives for my child to read every night. If I don't sign that calendar, they're not going to get points, which lead to classroom reward, playground time. So there's definitely a carrot for my child and me to keep me in line and moving.
Wyeth, how does we talk a lot about reading and how important it is at these early grade levels. I know the district has had some successes in third grade reading, acknowledged statewide, nationally as well for some of the advancements that you've had here. So when you hear those types of things, how does that lie into not only what you would like to see across the district reading wise, but also the strategic plan that you guys have been working so hard on?
Oh, there's so many things to say. I'm just really proud of since we're here at Bordeaux, I'm really proud of the team. It's not third grade has done a lot of work, but it's also the work that happens, I like to say the preschool, it really doesn't matter who comes here prepared and ready to go. And then it comes into kindergarten, first grade, second grade. And then these staff also take pride in knowing each kid. It's story, strength, and need. It's not just about just specifically, I'm a reader, but it's also, I love to read. I want to read. I can do that. I can be an independent learner. I go into the classrooms all the time. It has come so far. When I got here in this district, it was anthologies. A lot of our students couldn't even read the books. When we say just write book, it is a big deal. Kids can go home, they can access a book, they can be the drivers of their own interest and choice into what they read. And as learners, that's super empowering because I see the end product of kids who haven't had necessarily this much access as are younger at high school. And I talk to a lot of high schoolers that go from other districts over the summer, and I'm like, oh, how many books did you read? Since when you were in high school? I can't tell you how many kids said I didn't read any books because the first question I get back actually was, "You mean front to back?" I mean, that's sad, and then they just put out a report about why that is. I just get, I mean, I people don't understand how much you're doing for kids. I was one of those kids. I had an IEP. I was getting instruction reading. I was supported. Single mother, public schools. People saved me, and without that, I wouldn't be here. And these kids and watching these kids take pride in what they're doing, and be a reader and come to the mic at board meetings. I mean, that's why I think that's why we do what we do. I mean, nothing's more powerful than watching a kid be able to be their own learner and make their own choices. We take that for granted, I think. And I just hopefully it's a reminder of the work they're doing here at Bordeaux about how impactful, how many lives you're impacting. Bree here, she's impacting not just a couple kids, you're impacting hundreds of kids over a career, along with obviously the rest of the staff here.
James, how does that lie into kind of what the school board continues to advocate for, and with the help of the other folks who make those presentations and like this is what we should be doing, and then you make those votes, thinking about that and then hearing some of these results?
Yeah, that's been one of the highlights of serving on the board are those presentations. So we appreciate when the schools come in, and this last year, again, first year in there, I didn't see the expectations set up the year before, but I got to see the reports. And so Bordeaux, seeing that increase in literacy and an increase in attendance, and all of these places where the district and the school board and the teachers and school administrators have been working, we get to see that put into place. So then we get to support that as we hear those reports and say, okay, we're on the right track here. We're headed the right direction. Those numbers are increasing. We're seeing the results. And so you, in one sense, as a school board, kind of overseeing this, but you get to cheerlead those results then into the community. And so those reports, I think, are vital. We really, really appreciate that.
Moving on to another topic here. Wyeth, I saw you and Clinton speaking to Skookum Rotary earlier, I think it was last week, about some of the programs that are happening here. And one of the topics that came up and will continue to come up is the levy, and we talk about the levy a lot. Can you explain a little bit about the levy when it comes to an elementary school here like Bordeaux? And I think we did get a couple questions from the community, and so this may lead us into some of those as well. But just kind of talk a little bit about what that looks like here at Bordeaux.
Yeah, so in your community levy, it's for us, it's about for people out there, it's $10 million out of an $85 million budget. So those monies go to support. We have some intramural activities, so intramural, any kind of activities, clubs, and then really, unfortunately, the way the state funds public education, people just don't know this part, is that we rely on those levy dollars to do even basic maintenance. So like I have an air conditioning unit here and I have to fix it. HVAC's expensive. You got to get a part, you got to get it ready to go. We don't want those things to be in the way, but we need levy dollars to actually fix it. They're not that the levy has to be used, those dollars, because the state doesn't fund the maintenance and utilities to the level it is. It's $3 million short over the last 4 years for the Shelton School District. $3 million short of what it truly costs. People in this room, people listening, they know we're not living extravagant here. But by just general operations, we need those things. And then when it comes down to staffing, they staff a lot of the support. So we know that we provide mental health supports. We have a new counselor here at Bordeaux. We know that we have front office staff, an assistant principal. Those are the things that levies come back. So, I mean, outside of basic class and your principal and probably one office staff, a bulk of that is actually supported by the levy. And then we have to rely on federal title dollars to backfill some of the other things.
Kyle, can you bounce in on that? One of the questions that we got was about classroom sizes, especially specifically here at Bordeaux, and it was the ratios in the fourth grade class. Is that a levy issue here at Bordeaux? I heard you talking a little earlier about different schools have different numbers of teachers in those different classrooms.
Yeah, and I think and Wyeth can jump in here if he needs to. I don't necessarily think like the staffing in that essence is specific to levy dollars,
okay.
But what I'm learning from this process as a principal is how much the levy impacts just kind of the overall functioning of a building. So while I don't want to say it's specific to that, I also don't want to diminish the possibility they wouldn't have a ripple effect to that. Because like at the elementary level, you can't talk about programs such as like our intramural sports. But Wyeth touched on it. I think really at the elementary level, you are talking about the human impact. Today was just a pretty typical day at Bordeaux. And at one moment, I was helping a student who was having some behavioral challenges. So I was working with him, trying to get him back into class. While at the same time, my counselor was working with a student one-on-one. Assistant principal was outside helping with recess. My nurse tech had sick kids in her office. And if you think about all those people, except for, could be myself, their jobs could be at risk. And so then suddenly I'm trying to do all those jobs at once without the support people. And so I think that's going to be the greatest impact. So yes, there have been some balances of our classrooms, but like for fourth grade this year, and I think that's where the specific grade level was. Last year, we had 3 fourth grade teachers, and working with Wyeth and the HR team and budgeting, we were able to add a fourth grade teacher because we knew the classes were going to be a little bit larger. And so I will say, even though they are kind of big right now, the district team was proactive in trying to solve that problem with me because we only had 3 teachers last year and we knew this was going to be a little bit of a bubble. And so it is always a balancing act because some grade levels we have a tremendous amount of students and it just it wavers a little bit and sometimes it ebbs and flows. And so staffing can be a challenge in that regards.
Okay. What?
What is the classroom ratio to teacher?
So right now we have 4 fourth grade classrooms, and off the top of my head, as of yesterday, I believe each one had 27 or 28 students in them. Yeah. So may not be the exact number but roughly 27, 28. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is only 3 over cap.
Correct. So yeah, and that's another piece to it. Thank you. There is a cap on each grade level, and K through 3 runs at 20, and then when you get up to fourth grade, the number is 25. So once they're at 26, it's technically considered over cap. But again, through just some of the staffing issues that we've run into, it's I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, it's a state average. So it's a average for K3, but that's also including specialists. So that's the formula that the state put together, and so we abide by that. But at these older grades, like when you average that out, you're over by 3 over a cap. You're trying to keep things down. What drives a lot of these issues is the predictability of enrollment. It does fluctuate cohort to cohort, year to year. I wish we were magical, but if you all of a sudden have less families moving in, or right now one of the trends across the United States is homeschooling. Or just to tell you what it is. I mean, and I don't know who's going to choose to homeschool. They're not telling me until I get an email. So no one's asking my advice. I know what I'd tell them.
Right.
Send them to Bordeaux. This is a great place to get an education.
So then if you're just a few over, I mean, it's not like, Wyeth, you're going to send that overage to another school. I mean, they're here in this area, right? You have to work within not only the class footprint here, but also within kind of the realities of keeping kids within their home school area.
Well, yeah, the school, because they usually have a sibling too in this town. I mean, or it's multi-generational. My kids are, they're like, oh yeah, Miss West was my teacher, and now you can teach my kids. Like the people do that here. Okay, maybe sorry, no. I don't know. Let's say I was a teacher. I'll put myself as
Sure.
in the front of that, Mr. Jessee. But I've actually been there, so we'll move on. But it doesn't feel so good either. But we do want to keep people connected to the community. Schools are the center of community, point blank. And you just have to come to Bordeaux as a great example about how much people bleed their heart for this school. I'm sure Lauren would not want to move her kids. She would never do that because she knows this school's invested into her kids. She's invested back, and she's a volunteer. She invests back in the source of a volunteer to be on a school board than trying to do those things. So that's my short answer just around this.
So let's move into some more of these questions from the community. We did get a couple. That was one of them. And these will mostly be to you, Wyeth. This one is about transportation. Let's talk a little bit about that. Regular school bus route cancellations we saw towards the end of last school year. Kids are late to school. They might have been missing breakfast as well as getting into the classrooms on time. Can you give us any sort of updates on what's happening at the transportation co-op here? I was there today talking with them about kind of how it all works, and it was fascinating to see how they have to map everything out and make sure all these kids get into the classrooms on time, especially as you start pulling from Hood Canal and Pioneer and the added bus routes on that one, but it is a concern for some folks. You have any updates on that?
Yeah, so we have a big catchment area. We have kids that sit on buses for a long time, and a lot of families rely on us to get their kid. A lot of working families, two incomes, trying to get their. We want to get your kid here too. Just by the data, we've done a better job getting kids to school each year. This year actually is our best year yet. That said, there's been no cancel routes for Bordeaux. That's good. The challenge on that is that when we miss one route, it's kind of a ripple effect. And I don't want to diminish that impact on a family. And if I could prevent it, I would. Unfortunately, this particular era, there's just a bus driver shortage, and it is a high turnover job. We have a lot of turnover in our bus drivers. It takes a long time to train them. We train them for free. We pay them. We're trying to get them in and get them in. Unfortunately, a lot of times they don't stay. They get a CDL license, and then they can be a truck driver for some other route and make more money and have more benefits. It's a very competitive environment for people who can drive large vehicles. We're caught into that. Other districts obviously are too. We're doing everything we can to keep ourselves competitive in that arena. One of the things that we did do this last year, and maybe you heard this, Jeff, from the bus barn, was this year we redid the routes. So we went through all of the routes and rerouted it to make it as efficient as we can, because we had some holes where some buses were super crowded and other ones weren't. So we tried to right size that the best. I think we did a good job. Unfortunately, like at the end, we also sometimes don't get the correct information. So we have to figure out after the fact where we get the updated addresses to some families. And so we do move things around. If anybody's listening and we didn't get your route, I apologize. I always wish I could, if there was something, one of the things I could guarantee, if I could sprinkle pixie dust, that would be one of them, is to have amazing bus drivers and that our buses consistently could run their routes without any challenges.
It was pretty interesting to see the mapping and what roads the buses were able to go on. And a lot of it, too, is kind of what you hear with UPS and FedEx drivers, where you're not turning left at a light and you're saving gas and you're trying to be the most efficient you can. It was pretty fascinating, and as far up as Eldon to pick up some of those kids who had been in the Hood Canal School to get them here, and all the way up to Lake Cushman as well. So those are some pretty good ones.
Could I say something about because one of the questions in there I think was about missing breakfast, and we just it's actually very rare. Wyeth mentioned in the afternoon sometimes there is that trickle effect, because if a bus is late, let's say at OMS for whatever reason, it's just a ripple effect. But in the mornings, it's very actually rare for a bus to be late. I think Caleb and his team do a remarkable job of getting kids here. But even if they are, they call us. We let the front office know so they're not marked tardy. We let teachers know, and then we let the breakfast room know so that we make sure they have breakfast. So with our breakfast and breakfast after the bell, it runs at least 8:30. I don't believe we've had a bus, speaking off the top of my head, in 5 years past 8:30. And so every kid has that opportunity to get breakfast. I've got a couple people up there who are grandmas, and I think if I tried to deny a kid breakfast, I would have a hard time dealing with them because they make sure those kids are offered the food and ready to go. And so I think that's just something that, since that question did come up, that we never deny a kid breakfast. Now, whether they take it or not is a whole nother thing. But we do offer it to them, and we encourage them to eat something healthy and to be on their way.
One of the things that I think elementary schools take a lot of pride in is the outreach from the parents and the parent groups and the PTSOs. And there's probably always room for more helpers, more volunteers. So here specifically, Kyle and Bree, in your classroom, what are some of the additional ways that people can volunteer? How do you become a volunteer? What is that process like?
Yeah, we definitely welcome, parents and community members into our building as volunteers. A lot of them want to participate in the classrooms. And so depending on the teacher and how many, what work they have for the volunteer, that's the easiest route to start with, is just to reach out to the teacher. Sometimes they may already have an established volunteer. And so, we'll kind of work in figuring out a way to get people involved. I think the biggest way and easiest way is probably to participate on our PTSO. We have a pretty outstanding team that's working on the PTSO, but it's still relatively small. And so they put on a lot of wonderful events. We've got our upcoming Bulldog Bite auction. We do books and bingo. We have a harvest carnival, an arts thing in December. And they just support our building and our students in so many ways. And so that's a really excellent way to get involved, because I do think at Bordeaux, I'm extremely blessed to have a very a community that's very willing to participate, and I think we have a very close knit community here at Bordeaux, and they want to come in and support us, and so we are welcoming of that. Easiest route is to either contact the teacher, or you do have to fill out a volunteer form, which is, we can find one in the front office, or you can go online. It's a quick background check, usually not a big deal, and then we get them set up with maybe whatever activity they want to do.
So, Bree, by third grade, maybe a lot of the parents here kind of have an understanding of what's happening at Bordeaux. But tell me a story of a parent that may have come in to volunteer and was kind of really blown away on how the education is happening in your classroom. Do you have something like that for me?
No. They're all impressed. No, I think
that's great. I know, that's amazing. Expand on that a little.
I think the biggest thing when parents come in is they realize like how structured and a routine a classroom is. So, we have very specific times, all the way down to the minute. There is a specific way you do things. When you have 20 to 27 kids in a classroom, it's a very well-oiled machine. And so I like to think that parents are impressed by that, because I think, when you think of a classroom, it's like kids are doing their thing and coloring, and it's very, very specific. So I think that parents think that, we know what we're doing.
Lauren, yeah, you agree with that? Coming in, seeing these classrooms, because you're able to see it as a parent, but then also as a school board member.
Just thinking of two stories. One is, with the kindergartner last year, we're bringing her into the classroom at the beginning of the year and then coming in for a field trip at the end of the year. I saw this big transition where, she got to the classroom and she's responsible for all these short tasks, and she puts her folder in the right place and gets her backpack hung up and then sits down at the table with an activity bucket. And it's true, it's down to the minute. There's all these really thoughtful, intentional learning opportunities all day. And then I was also thinking about when we go and we can read books at the different elementary schools. I went to read a book in a kindergarten classroom last year, and they were all sitting quietly doing their sheet. And I opened that door, and just chaos ensued. And I was like, I'm so sorry. And she's like, no, it's fine. And we read the book. And then as I was leaving, she had them all back quietly in their spaces. And I was just, it's just wizardry up there. I don't know.
Wyeth, we always talk about, and you have been really advocating these last couple of conversations we've had about, come to the school, check out, take a tour, see what's going on, because it's not learning as parents might remember.
Yeah, I'm just, again, so excited about the experiences that we offer our students and families. And I just want people to come see it. I think in this, back to this kind of era where things are on social media, people put things out there. A lot of times I'd like to say, come fact check that. You can fact check that by actually just coming down in person. You don't have to even rely on what I say, what you hear from a neighbor. Come see it for yourself, because it is amazing. Wizardry is going on. You can see this well-oiled machine. It's just evident. You can feel it the minute you come inside the buildings. People were blown away. We had a number of events in the spring to come visit schools and read with students, and some celebrations right here in Bordeaux. They did a really good job. Like, people are blown away about the skill set of the kids. And that's not just in reading. That's just ability to be citizens, right? It's the ability to share things. It's ability to ask a question. It's ability to walk down and let me help somebody out. Like, they're building, again, the future here in Shelton. It looks amazing, and it is transformed. So if the information people are hearing, I do get frustrated as a superintendent, because I'm like, what are we really talking about here? And I wish I could meet them in person to walk them through, so I can learn more about what it is, so we can have a very factual based conversation. And that's why we're having events just like this. Come on down, come to the events, so that we can have a conversation. You can hear it. You got a question, we can answer it, till you're satisfied that you believe what we're telling you is what's going on. That's why I invite them. Ultimately, come see it for yourself. It's evidence. A lot of pride. Should have a lot of pride in what the schools and these teachers and educators are offering, but also about how hard the kids are working and all the skill sets they have.
We will be at OMS on October 7th for our next one of these. We'll have the district put out information based on the schools, so those parents can come and have a little more on this one-on-one time, not only with the principal and a teacher, but the superintendent and some from the school board. So again, I want to thank Principal Kyle O'Neill, Bree from the third grade here, Bree West, our school board members, James Dale and Lauren Gilmore, and Superintendent Wyeth Jessee for starting this off here at Bordeaux. It seems like things are on the right path here on this first start of the school year, and thank you so much for some of this time. And again, the 7th of October will be at OMS, and we'll be at all the schools across the district this year. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
There they are, everybody.